Hey, would you look at me? I got a haircut. Still look like a bum, but I got a haircut. I saw a YouTube reel of a guy working on a Chevy Colorado, a new one. They built the intake system, part of the PCV, which is normal for some cars. But here's the issue. In order to do any types of repair on the engine, you have to take it off. That's well and good, but you can't let the engine run while it's off. There's no room to do any types of diagnosis or anything. It's a massive engine cover, PCV, and intake system in one. Now, Chevy is notorious for doing that, modern Chevy, but it's getting to the point where so much so you can't do anything with the engine anymore with it without you have to take everything off. You have to take the intake off. Like if you wanna if you have a bad PCV or whatever or bad whatever underneath the engine, like you can't swap coils while the engine's running, you can't unplug things, you can't do anything for diagnostic purposes. You just have to kinda wing it. And I'm just like, how why would they design that? What an over. Let me see. I'll see if I can find a picture of it, and I'll put it in the like corner over here, over there. But what a joke! Not user friendly at all. Who I don't know. Just put a tube on the intake, put a cone filter on it, and put it in a box so water doesn't get in. There you go. Job done, engineers. What a waste. And shit like this is what makes MSRP go up. The engineers need jobs. I'm well aware. But here's the problem. They're just engineering shit however the hell they want because they need to keep their job. You can still engineer cars. Like we're at the point where we haven't reached peak efficiency, but nobody is doing anything to make anything better. We're making things more complicated. We're making things more intricate in how we think they should work, but that doesn't mean it's better. An intake is an intake. You know, it's. I'm sure the one that's on there, they didn't put so. I would love to see how much science and design they put behind it. Probably a lot. Probably not a lot. Either way, it's still a piece of shit. It's still just a dumb idea. We can't work on our cars anymore. So what the mechanic did for the solution in order to diag something, he was diagnosing something. He said, you know what? Gonna cut both ends of the PCV valves, cap them, and put a tube on there and call it a day. And there you go. Because it works. You just got rid of like a $300 piece with something that you can make for $20. And it works just as good, if not better. It's absolutely ridiculous. I have a 2022 Ford Ranger. Now, the EcoBoosts aren't exactly the most reliable engines on the planet. The 2.3 liters aren't terrible. The other ones are pretty bad. A lot of EGR problems, coolant leak problems. One of them has like constant misfiring issues, like the 1 and 0.6 liter, something that comes in the Escape or Edge. I don't know. The 2.3 liter isn't that bad though. So the day that my EGR code comes on, right? These EcoBoost engines have like the most brittle, and if you work on Fords, you'll know. You know how the EGRs have the Ford clips, the plastic clips that go in to lock it in place, and they're just after a while they get so brittle, and they just break apart when you try to just kind of like pry them open to pop it out. They just break, and the hoses are just this thin plastic, and if it doesn't go in the same exact way it comes out, it's junk. So what I usually do is cut them, put a rubber hose on it, clamp them. Job done, doesn't throw an EGR code. Okay, well, what if the EGR solenoid's bad? phenomenal. Just more bullshit to get in the way because EGR valves, what a great invention. Because I'm sure that's really helping the government, all those unburned hydrocarbons. By the way, it's all how the engine, this is a different topic, but it's all about how the engine runs for, catalytic converters and EGR valves and stuff like that for them to be necessary. But that's a whole nother topic. But guess what? When the EGR valve or solenoid, whatever, or circuit code goes off something, putting a resistor on it, yep, looks like it's working properly and it's actuating properly and capping off both ends, and I'm going to be on my merry damn way. You know why? Because the over-engineering of these modern-day vehicles are absolute nonsense. I bought my truck when I was single, had more money, naive to certain facts. And then the more and more I live through things, the more and more you realize how bullshit a lot of things are. If you own any German car, you're screwed. Especially for long periods of time, and you're not just a rich person that keeps recycling them to get the next, Mercedes A-Class every two years in your lease. Then you're screwed. Sorry, you are 110% screwed. I know one of my buddies works at a Volkswagen dealer, and he shows me some of the things he does, and what an absolute waste. What a joke. What a joke. Mechanics have to become engineers. There's going to be a big market soon for creativity. I'm sorry, I keep looking at the screen versus the camera because I'm trying to look at myself. Soon, there's going to be a big market for creativity. You know why? Because the mechanics, in order for these to keep these modern day cars alive, are going to have to be reverse engineered. Going to get rid of all the bullshit, like when somebody's 2019 Chevy Equinox, right, has a resistor code for the coil or something like that, as in like one coil's bad, and you plug it in. I've seen this like once. You plug it in and it's not throwing the right the coil's working properly, but it's not throwing the right resistance in the circuit, so it still thinks that the engine's misfiring. So since it's bullshit and they just do it, for Chevy just does it, so you have to buy all 4 coils. What you do is you just put a little mini resistor in the circuit or something like that to keep the code off, and that's where we come in. We do that part where we fix the fuck ups. And these aren't actually fuck ups on the dealerships and manufacturing, not dealerships, but Chevy in general. They want us to buy parts from them because they don't want us to work on them. They don't want us to save money. But you know what? There is going to be a market for creativity in the near future because we are going to have to re-engineer these cars. When engines go bad in these newer cars, when they start going bad, we're going to start swapping in different engines and have them be like almost like factory. We're going to get so creative with how we make these cars operate that they're better engineered than from the actual engineers. Because the engineers they're just trying to keep their jobs. They're not doing anything. The same car should be like, we've perfected certain cars, and some of them shouldn't just be changed, but they need to keep changing them because they need a job. The only problem is they can keep their jobs. Either they got their arms twisted by the uppers, or they just suck at their job. A 2020 Prius, all electric, or no, I think it was just a hybrid. So it was gas and electric. Water gets into the main harness and it throws a bunch of check engine lights on. Fixes, you have to replace. Is my son okay? He's okay. The fix is, actually, let me check on him. The fix for these Priuses are you got to change the entire harness. Now, it'd be no problem if it was just a plug here, a plug here. Nah. Why would it be that easy? Rip apart the battery, rip apart the interior, rip apart the floor. It's a 4-hour job. It calls for a flat rate. And it takes people about all day. For this wiring harness. Now, obviously, you know, I feel like the first thing is you have this hybrid electric vehicle and the wiring harness gets water in it. I feel like it happens so common enough, it's a recall. But it's happening so common that, like, almost like you didn't think water could touch Priuses. You know, there are engineers, as it turns out, there are some places in the world where it rains, you know, and there's puddles. Now, I don't know where you engineers start working at, probably somewhere down south or Arizona, somewhere. But, you know, when you're making a car for the entirety of the world, you should think, would water be able to get into this system? Considering it's just the main engine harness of the whole car. I mean, I don't know, shit. Maybe we should put the harness in the car instead of under the car, because that means water won't hit the harness and people won't have to pay thousands of dollars in repairs. Wow, I should become an engineer. Well, engineers will say, well, we can't do that because then we would have to re-engineer the interior. Okay. So do that then. Because eventually you're going to be in a job. I'll tell you that. But eventually you're going to keep going down the line where you keep solving these problems. And obviously you're going to keep making more. But if you keep solving the problems, eventually you're going to get to the point where you have this perfect thing. I'm not a car maker. This is how I would go about it. You get your basic idea. How should the car look? If you want a particular look, because to be honest, looks do sell. Looks sell. If it was an ugly piece of shit, people might not buy it as much. You know, it doesn't matter to some, it doesn't matter to others. There's a lot that goes into it and who the target audience is for the car. And it's supposed to be a perfect harmony that all works together. So you get your look down for what the car is. Now you go, how should the parts on this car operate? You ask yourself these basic questions. Okay, so they want us to make a small 4-door hybrid electric vehicle. Okay. How do we make this reliable, user-friendly, affordable, decent looking, comfortable? How do we add all these things together? Because when you start doing one thing, you start going, okay, how's this going to affect this? And how's this going to affect that? Will we be able to do this? He's just having fun. I feel like these simple questions aren't being asked and we're just looking at it and going, that looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that. All right, yeah, ship it. Did you test it? Did you think, hey, how would this react to this? How would this react to this? You know, there's multiple climate changes. How would this handle over bumps with this engine? Is it going to send vibrations through the cab? And they've mostly got stuff like that down now. Kinda. They're changing parts of the formula that don't matter. You know, look at the new Toyota Crown. It's phenomenal. It's a fucking Prius. It's the same thing. They're all the same. I can't wait for those to break. We already have recalls on, whatchamacallit, the new Highlanders or whatever. That's been out for a while, though. As it turns out, if you don't put actual screws inside your front bumper, the lip of your front bumper flies off on the road. Wow. I wonder how that would have happened. Don't know where you went wrong there. I know, but that's something more simple. Maybe they didn't see. Maybe it was an oversight, because overall the cars generally are good. I was going to take the differential drain plug out on it was a Toyota Sienna. The size of the nut for the fill was in a little indent, so you couldn't put a socket on it. And I believe it was a transmission or I think it was a two-piece drive shaft. Maybe I'm wrong. It was a transaxle. It was all-wheel drive, so I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but I remember how the bolt was. So you need a thin wall socket to go in the little indent of the transmission fill, of the transaxle or front diff fill hole, whatever it would be called, to get on there. It's a big socket. It's like a 24 or something like that, but you need a thin wall 24. Okay, fine, no problem. Well, you can't put a long socket in there because it hits the cross member or whatever. Okay, so you have to have a short, thin wall 24. Got it. Now get about 3 extensions and make them that big. Well, because the reason why it has to be 3 is because if it was one straight extension, you'd hit the exhaust. Okay, well, we don't want to do that, so we need a swivel here and like 3 3/8 long extensions here. Okay, great. Well, just something as simple as that. Now, when you go to fill it, it's going to be a clusterfuck. You have to have like our fill machine at our own Toyota dealership can't even really fit in there, which is hilarious to me. So you got to put a hose on the end of it and jam it on and like snake it through, but that's besides the point. My thing is just interesting ideas like putting an indent on a transaxle to make the bolt put it in an impossible place with a cross member in front of it just to drain and fill the fluid. I feel like it's something simple. Like, just make a longer headed bolt. Well, the thing is, you can't put a longer headed bolt on there because then you can't put a socket on it because there's a frame in the way. And if you don't have the right length of extensions, you're going to be hitting the frame and the exhaust. So you're over here trying to loosen this bolt, and the fill plug's over here, and you're just like, just something simple like that. Honestly, I'll look over that. My thing is you would think something so simple. It's just a big clusterfuck. Like you're like a monkey fucking a football trying to get one fill bolt out. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. One of the worst things that I hate on certain Toyotas, on the trucks specifically, are the front caliper design. The calipers themselves are fine, but they have a hard line and a soft line. Now, you can take the soft line and hard line where they connect off at the little bracket on the thing, but why not just have a longer soft line? Now, if you're a Toyota truck person, you know what I'm talking about in the newer ones. Why not have a longer soft line or 2 small little, either a longer soft line or 2 small, one main soft line and one soft line coming from that little bracket down to the caliper. So when you take the caliper off, it's not sitting on, like you don't have to rip the metal hose and keep bending it back and forth every time you got to do brakes. Because even when you undo the bracket, you still got to like fuck with it and like move it and keep bending the metal. Like just stuff like that. Just little things like that just I don't get who thought of this and why. I digress. Maybe within the next 10 years, I don't know for sure how long. There's going to be these manufacturers are going to be in deep shit. And they're feeling it now, but they're really going to be feeling it soon. People are going to fight back because it's too expensive. They're not going to want to pay. And there's going to be a real need for mechanics who are also engineers. And so a technician and an engineer are called a mechanic in one. Now, obviously, that's not true, but a good mechanic is an engineer and a technician all in the same time. The job is being kind of split in two now, and there's a big game of telephone going on, and nobody knows what's going on. But within the next couple of years, there is now, but it's going to be even more soon, especially when these newer cars start breaking. I'm going to hypermile the shit out of my Ford Ranger, and I will stretch that baby until it explodes. I will get my mileage and use out of my new truck. Watch me. I will reverse engineer it, and I will make it last, okay? I will. I swear on this planet. Like I said, there's going to be an extreme need for creative mechanics. My son just loves making noises. There's going to be a need. All these mechanics, these private mechanics are going to be making so much money. You know why? Because they're actually going to come up with crazy ways and how to engineer things to make them work. That's it. That's all I got to say. See ya.